back. You're watching Overdrive. Chinese-owned Hungarian brand Keeway is all set to enter the cruiser motorcycle space to battle it out with the Harley-Davidsons and Triumph motorcycles with their expensive offering, the V302C motorcycle. Now, is this brand a digestible option though? Chris will tell us more.
Seeing as you live out here in India and you fancied yourself a nice compact V-twin belt-driven motorcycle, well, you'd have to look at brands like Harley-Davidson and Indian Motorcycle, at least out here in the country. And yes, you'd have to be willing to shed more than 10 lakh rupees for those motorcycles. Well, that was until Keeway came out with this cruiser motorcycle you see before you. This is the V302C cruiser. What makes it so special? What's it all about? We are here to find out.
A twin-cylinder, belt-driven motorcycle in this displacement category is rare and uncommon, and so is this motorcycle's styling. The V302C looks healthy and muscular, big yet compact. It really catches your eye, this one. Alright, maybe not so much so in this all-black paint, but you do get the drift. When it's standing still, looking at this bike with its bulky teardrop-shaped fuel tank, the wide handlebar with its tiny end mirrors, those cut-short fenders with meaty tires, the substantially sized upside-down fork up front with the oil-damped twin shocks at the rear, it all makes this bike look very compact, muscular and neat. Well, all that aside from those gaudy-looking bunch of wires up front. It appears put together very nicely too, aside from the small gap between the seat and the tank. But that's more down to a design rather than an assembly flaw. The V302C is like a mix of a bobber motorcycle and a shrunken down Harley-Davidson power cruiser. It doesn't look like any motorcycle of its engine capacity, and it doesn't feel so when you get down to riding it as well.
Alright, so the Keeway V302C, as you can see, is a very nice and compact motorcycle. In fact, its wheelbase is just around 1420 mm, which is much shorter than something like the Royal Enfield Super Meteor 650 and even something like the Java 42 Bobber for that matter. Now, if you notice, there are some pillion foot pegs out here behind me, but when it comes to seating area, well, the seating space for your pillion, very negligible. And although Keeway say that there is a pillion backrest in the works, well, if you wanted to buy this motorcycle and wanted to seat a pillion behind you, well, that's pretty much out of the question.
Yes, this bike does have its design hiccups. But then again, if you're the sort who'd probably choose to ride alone, you'd have a good deal of fun with this motorcycle because although it's low, a tad long, and has a radius that isn't really all the best, it is just so lively and enjoyable in its every demeanor. It rides on chunky tires, and the bike feels nicely balanced with you seated just 690 mm off the ground in the center of it all. So this allows you to feel and alter the course of this bike very nicely. But you will have to watch out for deep ruts and oddly shaped breakers because, well, with the clearance just being around 158 mm, well, the base of the bike will scrape quite easily. Feel at the bars is quite neutral when you really want to get going. But Keeway holds its line with poise around long sweeping bends. Yes, the suspension is set up stiff and you will feel the brunt of practically every bump on the road. But then again, what did you expect from a motorcycle of this sort? If you're looking for a cruiser that will breeze you over bumps and undulations like you're seated on some sort of magic carpet, well, look elsewhere. But I should say that this definitely isn't the most uncomfortable single-seater cruiser bike out there currently. For me, the best thing about this bike has to be its engine.
A real highlight of this Keeway cruiser has to be its 298cc liquid-cooled V-twin. Now, this works very well in tandem with the 6-speed gearbox, and of course, it is belt-driven. That means its maximum power, which is 29.5 PS, and maximum torque, which is around 26.5 Nm. Well, power delivery, torque delivery is just spread so well across the power band. The engine is very tractable at low speeds, and out on the highway, cruising along at 100 kmph at just below 6000 RPM without a worry in the world. The engine just humming along very nicely, and you will also have much power on hand to carry out a couple of overtakes after that. So that is a real highlight for me with this particular machine.
The motor makes weaving through traffic an absolute breeze, and the harder you rev, the nicer this bike feels and sounds. And the good thing about all of this is that the tires and the brakes combo brings this bike to a halt very nicely too. So the Keeway V302C comes across as a more than decent option in terms of its design, ride and handling. But then again, when you consider its list of features, you will feel shortchanged, especially with its lack of Bluetooth connectivity and rather dull looking instrument console. You do get a sweet looking LED headlamp up front that does its job very well when the sun goes down, and you do have dual channel ABS as well. But then this bike misses out on the traction control system that the BD300 that's sold in China gets. It all just doesn't justify the bike's steep asking price.
So there's just one trim variant of this Keeway Cruiser to be had, but you do have the option of 3 colorways. Now the cheapest of which is the grey color scheme, which this motorcycle will set you back by around 3,90,000 rupees ex showroom. Well, this particular color scheme, the all black, will set you back by 4 lakh rupees. And the most expensive is the one to be had in red. Well, that will set you back by 4,10,000 rupees. Not all that cheap in today's motorcycling standards, and you can get a lot more motorcycle, a lot more bang for your buck elsewhere in the market. But what this motorcycle brings to the table, it's stellar looks, good fit and finish, well, the engine, the tractability, belt-driven, V-twin motor, 300cc, good amount of power, good road manners. Well, it is a very enjoyable motorcycle all in all, but then again it is lacking a certain amount of features. Then there is the question about reliability. Well, because in all honesty we haven't ridden Keeway motorcycles around for a long time to check on their longevity and their durability, so there is a big question mark looming above that. And then you have something like the Super Meteor 650, which gives you a lot more motorcycle for a lot cheaper. So basically, in terms of pricing and its stature in the market, this pretty much sits in no man's land. But the biggest setback of this motorcycle has to be that price tag.
With that, it's time for us to wrap up this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through Facebook, Twitter, as well as YouTube. And you can follow our latest updates on Instagram. We'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.